Today, I'll be working on a 2006 Scion XB.
The truth.
Alright, so today we're changing out the serpentine belt and the power steering belt on the Scion. So let's get the car jacked up really quick. This is the power steering belt. This is the part number and reference numbers you could use to cross-reference other brands. This is the serpentine belt. This is the part number for it and a cross-reference number if you want to use that. I just picked both these belts up in my local auto parts store.
Is the case.
Alright, so we definitely have access to the bottom side down here now. We also need to open up the hood to get access to the top side where the alternator is at so we can loosen that up. So let's go ahead and pop the hood. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is loosen up the alternator. It's got a 14mm bolt right on the bottom side of this pulley right here. I don't know how well you can see that, if at all. But it is right below the alternator pulley. So we're going to loosen that up really quick. Again, it's a 14. And then after that, we're going to loosen up this bolt right here, which is a 12mm. And it rides along this slot right here to adjust the tension on this belt. So we'll loosen up the bottom guy, the 14, and then we're going to come up here and loosen up this 12. You don't have to take these all the way out, just loosen them both, and then your alternator can move. If you take them all the way out, it's a pain to get them back in. Now, as you can see, our alternator is nice and loose, so we can go ahead and get that belt. Alright, so before I take this off, I like to draw out how the belts go and everything like that. I'll show you guys right here. So here's my crappy drawing of how the belt should go. Here's the power steering one, here's the crank, the AC, the water pump, the alternator, and then back down to the crank. But now that we know how the belts are supposed to be run, let's go ahead and take these off. It is loose enough where you can just kind of take everything off. There's not much room on the top side to get to, so I'll probably have to take the alternator belt off from the top side, but it is off the rest of the pulleys. So let me go get that really quick and then I'll drop it out the bottom. With the alternator pulley, it gets caught on this engine mount, so you kind of have to pull back on the alternator itself, and then you can get the actual pulley, or the, get the actual belt off. Like, maybe, if I can get it with one hand. There it goes. Just like that. But yeah, it gets caught up on this engine mount right here. Alright, there we go. Now our alternator belt is off. Let's go ahead and start working on getting this power steering belt off. Alright, now to get the power steering belt off, there's two 14mm bolts. One's right here. One's on the top side up that way. It's really hard to see. So I'm going to loosen this guy up first. And then we're going to have to rotate this pulley using the crankshaft bolt. We'll turn it clockwise. And it'll rotate this guy as well. And then we can access that other one that's up top, way up there. You'll see where my ratchet goes, but it's really hard to tell on camera just because of the tight spot between the frame here and the pulley. But let's go ahead and get this one loose. And then I'll show you cranking this guy over. Alright, so just like the alternator bolt, don't fully take this one out because it can be a pain to get it back in. The other one you can sort of see up there. I did have to rotate it a bit, but you can... Oh, there it is. There. That's the other 14 we're going to be loosening up. Again, just loosen it. Don't take it all the way out, but we are going to have to rotate this pulley via this pulley. So let's get this thing turned real quick. Remember, you don't want to turn it clockwise. Just like righty-tighty kind of thing. May actually be enough room. Alright, to get to that top bolt, I had to use a shallow socket and a very short drive. I tried a long socket, but it was too long. As you can see, there is a difference. This guy was too long to get in there with the ratchet. This is the right size. You hardly ever see these guys, so if you have one, use it. If not, you might have to use like a 1/4 inch drive and maybe a deep weld socket on a 1/4 inch drive or something. Or a deep weld socket and maybe like a breaker bar instead of a ratcheting head, because those are shallower too. But whatever you got to use, it's pretty hard to work up in there, but this is what I found works best for me. Alright, so once you got both those loose, but not all the way out, I'm just going to go ahead and pull down on this guy. And it should move that power steering pump forward. There you go, you just saw it shift. Pull as hard as you can. There we go. Now it's loose enough that we can take it off here. Take it off our crank pulley. There it goes. Alright, let's get it out of here and get these new ones on. Now looking at the old one, there's a few cracks in the belt. I don't know if you guys can see it too well. But they were definitely time for being changed out. And they were squealing at me like crazy too. So it's definitely a good time to get these things changed. That one looks pretty nasty too. And there's something in the grooves on that one. But yeah, let's get these changed out for new belts. So I was noticing these have the old Daco numbers on them. You can look it up that way and get those belts as well if you want. Alright, so here's a quick side-by-side with the old ones and the new ones. You just want to make sure that they're all the same length. Or at least roughly the same length. Old ones are going to be a little bit longer because they've been stretched out over the years. But that one looks good. Let's double check our power steering belt. Yep, that one looks good too. Let's get these on the car. Alright, so because the power steering belt sits on the back side of the pulley, the crank pulley here, you have to start with that one. Because if you start with the regular alternator pulley, you're not going to be able to get the belt on for the crank pulley. So let's get this one on real quick. Alright, it is pretty loose, and you can't really push, so we're going to have to get a pry bar on this power steering pulley here and get it to go that way. I'll show you where to pry here in just a second. So I think the best way to do this is there's a bolt shaft for the power steering pump right here. I'm going to put the end of my pry bar on that and then pry against this block right here on the engine block. And hopefully it'll push the power steering pump that way, and I can get some tension on this belt. Let's give that a try really quick. There it goes. It's still loose a bit, so let's tighten it up some more. There we go. Now while you're keeping tension on it, go ahead and tighten this guy up. Or the other one, whichever one's easier to access for you guys. Excuse me, I can't talk this morning. But, oh. All right. That one's pretty tight. Let's check that deflection. It's pretty good. Let's go ahead and rotate our crank around so we can get to that other bolt and tighten that one up too. About right there.
Is the king.
Alright, now that our power steering belt's on and it's snug, I'm going to go ahead and start running the alternator belt around and try and get it on all the pulleys here. Remember, we can look back at our little image we made, or if you just want to look at mine, that works too. But to make sure that we got everything in the right place, end up, get it around that water pump, then I go to the top side, and I'm going to get it around the alternator as well. Alright, let's get top side really quick. Alright, now remember the trick with the alternator, you got to shift it back a bit to get it around this engine mount right here, just to get this belt up and around. So let's go ahead and shift it and get this belt wrapped. Alright, now that it's on up here, let's go double check everything down below. Alright, now that's around all the pulleys the proper way, let's go back topside and tighten up that alternator. Alright, so I'm going to tighten up this bolt right here first. It's the 12mm, but it's the easiest to get to. And once it's secure, then we can go down below and tighten up that 14. But I'm going to use my pry bar, kind of wedge between the engine mount here and the alternator. And I'm just going to apply force this way, and you can see the alternator moving. So once we got it snug, we're going to go in and we're going to tighten this guy up. So once we got it snug, I'm going to go in and I'm going to tighten this guy up. Alright, now that guy's good and tight, we're going to go down and tighten up the 14 that's underneath of it here. I know you guys can't see it too well, but it is down. Remember, it's underneath this pulley here, so it's right where my hand's at. I'll show you once the ratchet's on there where it's at exactly again, but we're going to go ahead and tighten that one up too. Alright, now we got both belts on. I'm going to go ahead and start the car. We're going to make sure we don't have any more squeaking, which we shouldn't because they're brand new belts, but we're just going to double check anyway. Awesome. These belts are quiet, and they're brand new. You can see the power steering pump right there. Awesome. Alright, now let's get this car back on the ground. Obviously, after we get our wheel put on. Alright, now both of our belts are changed out. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below and I'll try and answer them as soon as I can. Hope this video helped. If you like any of the background music that was in this video, check out the artist's SoundCloud, link is in the description.